I'm Bree Luck, and you are listening to the Pause to Go podcast, where we explore the process of turning life's transitions into stellar transformations. You can expect interviews with experts, straight talk with remarkable humans, and conversations about making the most of every phase of life. Because when we approach life's stickiest spots with curiosity, support, and a little bit of inspiration, anything is possible. So whether you're on your way to work or settling in with your favorite beverage, together we can pause to go. As a solopreneur, I really like the flexibility to work from pretty much anywhere, so I'm happy to head down to Code-Based Co-working, where I can enjoy the company of others while I tackle my to-do list. Also, they have a state-of-the-art, consumer-friendly podcasting studio that is, frankly, my home away from home. So head over to Code-Based Co-working, check it out, and when you do, tell them that Bree sent you. I've been thinking a lot about mentors lately. Part of that is because when I'm working with people who are embarking on major changes in their lives, whether that's training for a marathon or starting a family or a career shift or grappling with illness, I know how powerful it is to have a mentor, a teacher, an example of someone who has tackled something familiar and thrived. We are often inspired when someone we identify with personally accomplishes something that feels sort of out of reach. I think of that Olympic story. You may have heard it. Until 1954, there was no one in Olympic history who had run a mile in fewer than 4 minutes. They thought it was physically impossible. But at the 1954 Olympics, Roger Bannister broke the mile marker in 3 minutes and 59.4 seconds, and the crowd went wild. No one had ever seen anything like it. But here's the interesting thing. His title didn't last long. Once Bannister broke that barrier, people started running sub-4-minute miles all the time. And while some of that can be attributed to conditions more conducive to a faster race, better tracks, maybe training differences, different diets, many people posit that there was a psychological breakthrough. Once it seemed possible, it was possible. They actually call it the Bannister effect. Now, I'm not going to say that one person's success will suddenly change the physiology of another person. My sister is an incredible artist, but I can watch her all day, and that doesn't give me instant talent. But I can say this. At every crucial juncture of my adult life, I've been lucky enough to have a mentor guide me through. And today, you are going to meet my dear friend and midlife mentor, Beatrix Ost. Beatrix is an artist, a writer, a fashion designer, and an ambassador of peace. She's also written screenplays, produced movies in theater, and acted in films and on the stage. I have read her 2 memoirs, A Piece of Me and More Than Everything, about growing up in Germany in the wake of World War II, and I really fell in love with her stories of childhood and adolescence. And her book, The Philosopher's Style, is a beautiful art book that includes gorgeous photographs as well as stories and interviews. Beatrix is currently collaborating with painter Michele Gagliano and the Torrecietta Museum to create an immersive art experience. Inspired by the differing narratives in one another's work, Beatrix and Michele aim to listen and respond to each other, similar to the call and response arrangement found in jazz music. It's really exciting to see Michele and Beatrix combine their 2 narratives to forge a path where abstract meets surrealism and where the artists find a real connection on and beyond the canvas. I really love talking with Beatrix, and I hope that you will enjoy this conversation with Beatrix Ost. This is a special Valentine's week episode because your way of being in the world is so grounded in love and in friendship that it's a real joy to speak with you. So let's get to it.
Yes.
You know how much I love you and admire you, and I know what an inspiration you can be to other people. Let's talk a little bit now about the incredible work that you are doing, because it's a work that is born out of partnership, out of friendship. Can you tell us a little bit about this series that you're working on right now?
The artwork I'm doing with another artist, with Michelle Galliano. Yeah, we met, and we cannot recall how we got to the point that we said we want to work on one big theme about the environment together as two women, two mothers, as concerned lovers of the world and lovers of nature. And we started and we did it. We learned to paint into each other's paintings. We learned to do sculpture together. And it came from a mutual respect for each other's work and each other's personality. We don't know each other for a long time, not at all. And we're really in love with doing that work together. We feel there is so much feeding each other. And so we are, I don't want to say obsessed, but we are marching forward to get it finished and to get it made. That the other decision which has been done with the Toro Siete Museum and with a fellow friend, an architect, Karen van Lengen, she said, why don't you make it into an exciting presentation where you don't need 5 rooms, you can tell the story. In that way, you can get anyone in and immerse in an immersive spectacle. And that's what we are working on to create.
So how do you work with each other on a piece?
Yeah, we have done innumerable paintings now together on a very large scale. And that is like, there are paintings she brings to me and I go in after she presents it to me. And there are paintings I give to her and she goes into them after I am finished. So that is enormously interesting. We also have worked on recycled paintings, on paintings which we used to make 20 years ago, which have had their story, they have had their meaning, they have had their days. And now we come back to a thought we had once and we recreate it. It is like having a conversation again and again. It is very exciting, I must say. Our theme is nature, and the title is I Could Have Been a Tree Instead. It is very exciting and on a daily basis, still very exciting. Now I have given her sculptures and wall hangings where she will go in, where I have finished the work. And they're also 20 years old. And they have been painted on linen with earth color, with color from the farm, from the earth. It's good work. It feels good on every level.
It makes me think you and I have been friends for a while. So I know how much you enjoy the game, the Exquisite Corpse game.
Yes, with words, right? The word game. Yeah.
And it's a game where, I'll explain it to listeners, it's a game where somebody writes a line of a poem or just a line in your head on a piece of paper, and then you fold it down, and then someone writes another line, and then they fold it down. And at the end, you have this beautiful or funny or whatever it is, whatever the moment is.
Yeah.
Piece.
The interesting thing is that because you are in a room with a certain energy, that often it makes sense as if it was a poem from one person. And there were 20 people involved. That is so interesting. And that's what we are doing with the paintings. We just we fold it practically and give it away until we see it again. Yeah.
It's such a courageous act.
It is. It took long. It took us, I would say, at least 3 weeks until we could do the going into the other person's work. And I mean, you must also see that we didn't know each other much. We had that idea and we fell in love with it. And somehow the moment was right. There was something right about it. And we just started doing it. And I went to her studio, then she went to my studio, and now we have a studio together. And the ideas just started blooming. It's very fresh every day. It really is. Mm-hmm. Now we work together in the studio, and she comes in and looks, oh, wow. That's what you're doing. And I turn around and look, no, oh my God, this is interesting. This comes from a very mutual admiration of how we work, how we think.
And you think in very different ways.
Yes, hers is abstract and mine is figurative and surreal, and we learn from each other. We see new. It's like doors have opened and we see anew because we are in it. We are not just looking at a finished painting. We are looking at work, which we are supposed to put something in the other person hadn't yet had given us as a platform. It's like a theater play.
I would love to just take a step back because you are such a dear friend of mine and such a wonderful mentor. You've been right with me as I've been working on the first season of the podcast. And you have inspired me so much as an everything, but I'm thinking,
sure.
But I'm thinking in particular of how you told me that you really had a true creative awakening when you were 50. Can you tell us about that? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I remember my 50th birthday was an incredible party. And I remember that feeling of being celebrated to the nine. It was the biggest party ever around a birthday I attended, and it was my own 50th, and it was staged. Firstly, I also felt the 50s I always said, finally a respectable age. I like that so much. To be like, you look back at some years, if you're lucky, I had some respectability. I liked the whole 50s a lot, and I was enormously creative in my 50s. I liked the body, and I liked the not having the ups and downs of your menopausal circles and the freedom. And I really enjoyed it very, very much. And I felt so young and I had these grown-up children around me. It was very, 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 very good. I also think there are always new beginnings. That was one of them. There was one new beginning. Because, you have to, I always feel you have to say, not farewell, but say, put it in an act and say, so this was this, and now here I am. Something new can begin. I am free. I'm open to it. That was the 10 years I made the movie with my son. I did huge works as an artist. They were all created in my 50s. Yeah, it was very good. It's a new beginning. I keep telling women, go for it. Go for it. It is not the beginning of old age. It's a new beginning. Just go for it. It's good. Yeah.
You have been curious and creative since you were a young child. You wrote about it in your books. You're an author and an artist, a style icon. You're a sculptor. You've been in films, an actress. You just do it all.
But that is my curiosity. This is out of curiosity. And then I'd love to dive in and then to learn and master it. I like that so very much. And I'm enormously creative. Once I have an idea, I have to create it from the beginning to the end. You can't stop me. So that is part of my character, to just go for it.
What do you think is at the heart of your creativity? What's at the core?
I think love of life. It's at the core. It all has to do with being alive and telling a story and being fascinated by something. Yeah, that is it. Love for life.
I think of you as a true creative change maker. You're working on this piece right now that's really about the environment.
I have to say that I have worked on the environment and included the environment since I can think, because the straw goddesses sculptures made from straw, I did them in the early 90s. I worked with the earth. I worked with earth paintings and with materials which were, just there because I had a farm. And I was always very, very alert and concerned about the environment and in love with our surroundings, with nature. And I grew up with parents who, instilled that in me, definitely.
You grew up on a farm?
From the very beginning, yes. I grew up on a very wonderful, large estate farm where we fed everyone after the war, where the most important thing was food.
And you were curious and getting into things.
I was always very curious. Mm-hmm. And I was allowed to be. There was no limit. And I didn't let anyone set me a limit.
You're talking about your parents now. They didn't set limits for you.
No,
right?
No. And I wouldn't let anyone.
I remember you telling me, and also you wrote about it in your first book, the moment when your father says, everyone, Beatrix is speaking, Beatrix is speaking.
Yeah, at those unforgettable tables where relatives and people who came every day, there were like 20 people at the table because we fed them and we had food. And there was this celebration of food. And so I would say, Papi, I saw something. He would say, everybody quiet. Beatrix has something to say. And then I would, Papi, I heard the cuckoo. And I think spring is coming. And my father would say, there you go. How clever you are. How you observe everything. That is absolutely true. So
I love that.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I keep telling people with little children to always listen to them very early on. It's the most important. And elevate their observations and tell them what an important part they are in your life and how smart they are.
You also say to do that with teenagers. I know that you really love spending time with teenagers too.
We understand each other so well because we're the teenagers. I'm at the edge of old age and they are at the edge of grown up. It's fantastic. We're practically in the same box. Yeah. Yeah, I have a good time with teenagers.
And you respect them.
Yeah, I do, very much so. I'm at awe with them because now it's a new kind of teenager, an enormously educated and knowledgeable teenager because they can, they go into their little phone and they have a whole encyclopedia of the world in there. And there is a lot of a different kind of education, very political. Of course, very just. It's very interesting to me.
I love that.
And invited to hang out with them.
So, as you know, I have this project that I'm working on, which is 7 paths to change.
7.
And so what I would love to do with you is to go through each of the 7 ways, and you can share with me what your experience of that way has been in your life.
Yeah.
So let's start first with the spiritual way.
The spiritual way is a very, very vivid part in my life. Very, very vivid part. 2 times a day, I cut out time for meditation. One of them is upside down, where I have the legs way, way up and my head is way down. That's in the middle of the day. And I have also learned visualization. While I'm meditating, I often go into visualization. So if something is not so to my liking, I can visualize it, how it would be if it would be okay. Or even, also when you feel a little illness or something somewhere, or a headache or something, I can visualize it away, how it would be when it's gone. Spirituality, it's a gift to yourself. Without it, I think you are not in good shape. You need to work on yourself, that your own expectations, everything is something you have power over. Everything you expect from outside, there is no power over it. All you can do is cultivate and adore yourself. And in your body is a good place to be. That's my motto. Yeah.
You study Buddhism.
Yeah. 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 And that comes through my son, Fabian. And then I had the good fortune to meet Robert Thurman and the Tibet House and then the Dalai Lama. And then we traveled as a family and in these places. And it had given me an incredible gift to see myself in the world, I must say. Yeah, yeah. And it's something you always have with you. There's nothing you need. It doesn't cost anything. It's with you.
I want to repeat that. It doesn't cost anything, because I think we can be very quick to want to buy our way.
Happiness.
And spirituality is readily available to us. All we have to do is connect.
Yeah, let it in, want it. It is inside of you. You just need to say hello. Talk to me.
Allow it. Okay, next one. Intellectual, analytical, the intellectual side.
Well, yes, I am. Very analytical, to a point that, when it's not there, when it's a conversation just about stuff or things, then I can point at my little brooch, which says practicing silence, and then I become silent because I'm not interested in it. I'm interested in knowing how you feel, how the trip was, how it felt to be up in the mountains. I don't want to know how you walked there. I want what you saw, what you experienced for yourself, what it gave to you. I want to know, how did you get to that thought? That is exciting to me. Yeah. The symphony of thinking.
Emotional,
yeah. That's why I also dove into the Philosopher's Style book, because I interviewed 60 people and I only asked them one question. The question was, tell me, what is the marrow in your bone? And then I got the story out of them. And, that curiosity, and you get so much, because people would love to tell you so much, but they aren't listened to. But once you are so curious and want to know more, you listen to, then you get those openings. People open up to you and open up much deeper. And then that is intellect for me. That's intelligence for me.
And that is truly the confluence. We've talked before with these 7 ways, they intertwine. And that's the sort of intertwining of the emotional and the intellectual there.
Yeah, exactly. And it feeds it. People come up with things they never said before. To me, that is intelligence and philosophy. And I love that. I love that.
The Philosopher's Style is a beautiful, beautiful book. You need to have it on your coffee table. I'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah.
The next one is one that we've touched on already, which is creative.
Yeah, creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it also comes from nothing, from having nothing. Like the Christmas doll just got a new dress. There were no new dolls because you couldn't buy anything until the later mid-50s when the world had recovered from that horrible war. So it came from being confronted with what was there, and you had to be creative in your childhood. It began very early. Yeah, I'm very, very happy about that. I didn't know the sound of a telephone until I was 11. There was an office where my father would dial something and then this thing, and he would talk to someone and she would connect him. He would call the train station and would say, hello, here's Fritz Ost. Could you please let the train, maybe 10 minutes. My wife is a little late today. Okay, thank you very much. Just 10 minutes, okay? So that was the rural living when my mother was a little slow and she wanted to go to town. He stopped the train for her. But I never went to a phone. There was never a phone call. So there was enormous tranquility and excitements all around with what happened there and around me.
Do you feel like your sense of style grew from that place?
Yeah, definitely. It came from nothing. And then a seamstress came, and my mother, against a chicken or a butter or something, she got a piece of silk, and that was for me, and I got a dress. And then I became very, very creative in my teenage years. Yeah, I could make things. I could make my own clothes. And like my first very elegant shoes in the city of Munich were ballet slippers. I would wear them on a daily basis. So, yeah, it wasn't easy to find shoes. I mean, I think people should read my books. It really describes it.
It really does. It also explains why, well, I have an issue with this title that you've been named one of the top 5 style icons for older women. And of course, what I say is, what do you mean older women? You're just one of the top 5.
The whole thing is so funny. How, admired for my style. And it just is me. So it doesn't make any difference. But I would go on Madison Avenue to Gautier, and because I adored his clothes, and they said, "Oh, please come in. We have something for you. We have to show you." And then I ended up with a fantastic golden outfit in plastic. I still wear it. It's fabulous. It's just plastic and gilded plastic. It's a jacket with a white skirt. So fabulous.
If my birthday weren't in August, I would ask you to wear that to my 50th birthday party.
Absolutely. It's perfect. It might be a little warm, but we shall see.
Wonderful. Okay, the next one is intuitive. Your intuition. How does that come into play?
Intuition has to do with being in the moment. You're in the moment. A mother who rips the kid away from the driving by car, that is in the moment. This is something we have to cultivate, because this is the only thing we have, the moment. We only have this moment. And
One of the tips that I have for cultivating intuition, and I think you and I have talked about this before, is intuition comes in before cognition, before you start thinking about the thing. It comes in before creativity, and it comes in before emotion. When you have the emotional feeling first, that's not intuition, that's emotion. But when you have the gut response to something, then everything else can follow. But you have to find that stillness first so you can hear it, so you can feel it.
The stillness thing is really, I told you, I have that brooch on today. I don't know if you see it, but I used to go to parties because I didn't want to answer and get into nonsense. But I was constantly asked and talked to, and so I had that brooch made. It says practicing silence. And I would go to a party and I would point at my brooch and wouldn't speak. And I learned to listen. And I became infatuated with listening. People became so incredibly interesting to me, the way they moved when they said something, how they said it, how they looked around. It was like they were all books. And I felt in that stillness where I did not prepare a clever answer to something I was just talked to or asked to. There was this, I was in a chamber of stillness where I could just absorb everything like a sponge. And I just loved it. I can highly recommend that.
We all need the brooch.
We all need a brooch because I wanted to be outside and I wanted to be at the party and I wanted to be dressed up and I wanted to see everybody and, see the beautiful people and what they were wearing. And I wanted to hear what they were saying, but I didn't want to be in a blah, blah conversation. Mm-hmm. So I can highly recommend listening. It's fantastic.
And people can purchase that brooch.
Article 22. Article 22 was the peace agreement between Vietnam and USA after the war. And Elizabeth Suda, 10 years ago, she founded that company. She went to Laos and saw people were eating with spoons and they were made from the scraps from explosions of mines. And Laos was the most contaminated country with mines and bombs to this day. And so she said, when they can make a spoon, they can make jewelry. And she has a group of people who make jewelry. And I design sometimes. I have several very successful. One is the snake earrings pieces, the snake with the skin, shedding your skin, the symbol of it. And half of the proceedings goes back to Laos so they can continue detonating all these, doing the work what Princess Diana had put on her agenda. Remember, she walked through those minefields. So this brooch can be purchased at Article 22. Now I'm selling.
That's okay. We'll put it in the show notes.
They're beautiful bangles and from other designers, beautiful earrings. And yeah, it's lovely. And you do a good deed.
I always love it when you can find a beautiful piece of jewelry that's also doing some good in the world. It's a really wonderful thing.
Yeah, and it's not commercialized.
That's right.
It's fair trade. It just goes from here to there. Nobody in between. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm not an affiliate of Article 22. They're not paying me to say this, but I really love that company. I'm so glad that you design for them and with them because it's a beautiful collaboration. And also, I believe that your In Your Body is a Good Place to Be is also on some of their jewelry too.
It's a little necklace.
So for those of us who need a reminder, that's a lovely, we can all use a reminder from time to time.
The snake, shed your skin, renew yourself.
The next one is physical. Speaking of in your body, physical.
Yeah, physical. Yeah, we need physicality. We need the touch. Mm-hmm. We need to hug each other. We cannot be without. That's why people who often have difficulties, they have a little dog. With the dog, they can do it. But we need, I need to be physical. I love it. I also love dancing. I love to move around with another person, with another body. Yeah.
You love to tango.
I love to tango. Yeah.
And for any of you who want to see Beatrix dancing the tango, you often share it on your Instagram feed.
Sometimes it's an intelligent dance. It's like a conversation. There are not so many rules. You can break the rule and do something. It's very intelligent. It's super.
You like to break some rules. The last one is social relationships.
Well, we are a social animal, we humans. So we need social interactions. We need also critique. We need to hear from another's, you should not say it this way, or you should do this. And then you can say, yeah, maybe you're right. I love being social as much as I love solitude. So when you have enough solitude, you can become very, very social again. Pick and choose what you let in. Don't let too much politics, too much negative into your life. It is like rain. It's not in your power. You can help, but you can help much better when something is right here next to you, your neighbor. But too many negative things are not good for us because they sit in there like some gray something. You always have to think it's like the weather. You can't change it. You cannot. It's raining. Make the best of it. It's wonderful. It's good for the garden. We live in the moment. This is your moment. This is your time.
What is one thing that you would wish for anyone who's really trying to make a big change in their life, whether that's developing healthier relationships, whether it's starting a new creative project or a new career, or just trying to start a new day in their life? What would you wish for anyone who's going through that?
I think what we all most desire and most crave is this quantum love, is this love. And why don't you begin the day with loving yourself? Give yourself that self-love and thankful for who you are and that you have a human body and all the good things you have and you are. And then when you open the door, you can give that out. This can be given to something because you just had it revitalized. It's with you. It is for you and it comes from you and you can give it out. The most important thing is love, because this is what we really crave the most. To begin where we are at home, in our body.
We do. Well, thank you for sharing that, particularly on this week of Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we need little reminders.
Don't forget love. But it's not just romantic love. That's I think
it is. It is that thankfulness. Thankful to be where you are, who you are. Thankful for all the gifts around you. Every moment is so much good in it, and you can learn to master and not emphasize on the negative. Yeah. I think love is the most loving.
I often feel like at the root of love is gratitude, just unfiltered gratitude, completely undeniable gratitude and appreciation.
Yeah.
Just really just appreciating the exquisiteness of life.
And it is enormously gratifying to be like that. It comes back like an echo. It comes back. It's like a ball. Yeah.
And sometimes it gets bigger.
Yeah, no deflating.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing time with me.
Of course. In your body is a good place to be.
Indeed. Thank you.
Yeah. Tschüss.
Tschüss. Here are my key takeaways from this conversation with Beatrix. Number 1. First of all, if you are feeling stuck, find someone who can inspire you, like a mentor, As Oprah Winfrey said, a mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside yourself. Number 2, true collaboration is an act of deep vulnerability that requires courage and clear communication. But this effort can result in something extraordinary that is truly greater than the sum of its parts. Number 3, whether you are 5, 50, or 95 years old, there are always opportunities for new beginnings, and it is up to you to go for it. Number 4, in your body is a good place to be. Make the time to find stillness in your body and mind, to be fully present. From that place, you can access all you need to cultivate well-being. Number 5, I love this idea that at the core of Beatrix's creativity is her love of life. Take a moment to consider, what is at the core of your creative impulses? How does that shape how you respond to the world around you? Thank you so much for listening to the Pause to Go podcast. If you got something out of this episode, let us know. Share it with a friend, join our Facebook group, and subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts if you loved it. If not, no worries. We want you to tell it like it is, and we'd love to have your input. If you want to know more about what I'm up to, you can follow me on Instagram at TheLovelyUnbecoming or at my website, TheLovelyUnbecoming.com. Stay curious, y'all.